Are you sick of constantly failing when you try so hard to start a new routine? You came to the right place. Sup? It's Sage, and if I'm being completely honest, I wanted to wait until I got closer to my goals before making this video, but I know those goals are constantly changing and I'll find another excuse to not make this video. So I'm just putting it all out there right now. In my whole adult life, I've gone up and down so many times, and the big events in 2020 took a massive toll downward for my mental health and upwards, wait, that's not a good thing, upwards for my scale. In the last 2 years, I've lost nearly 100 pounds of fat, gotten a lot stronger, and I've built up a lot of healthy habits. At this point, I just want to share some of the things that have stuck with me, starting with mindset. Some people start with the goal of getting skinny or just to have this perfect body they have in mind. To me, you shouldn't have a goal body be your main focus, but instead have a goal feeling or activity to be the focus. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for me personally, I wanted to stop feeling exhausted just by walking up the stairs in my home. I wanted to be more active without my knees bothering me due to my weight. And I also just wanted to feel happier with the way I looked in the mirror. I tried my best to not set a idealized body image and say I must look like this, but instead I focused on real actionable goals. And remember, these goals do not have to be rigid. They will be changing once you get a better idea of where you want to be later on. Something you probably want to avoid is becoming obsessive about the numbers you see on the scale. You absolutely should not weigh yourself daily, but if you are still wanting to keep an eye on your weight, instead weigh yourself maybe once every other week or once a month, but make sure it's under the same conditions. For example, early morning on a Saturday before you eat anything for the day. Depending on where you're at in life, you might not have all the resources to make things easy to work on your physical health. I just wanted to say, I have extra sympathy for those with kids out there and their ability to have free time, but please remember how important it is to show your children a good role model for physical and mental health. Some of my favorite memories when I was a kid was when my mom was on a big health kick and we had some of the tastiest food and tried our best at chasing a ball, attempting to play tennis together. Try your best to have your kids involved where it works and let them be a big driver for you. If you have the ability, get a gym membership so you can have access to machines and equipment you otherwise wouldn't have. If you are extra set and you have extra money laying around, maybe you even jumpstart your health journey with a personal trainer. Now, on the other hand, if a gym membership financially doesn't work for you, get a cheap set of dumbbells or do bodyweight exercises at home. Maybe even some fun cardio type dance classes. These can all work your entire body and get you active. If you're not sure where to get started, scroll through the webpage I have linked in the description. I spent way too long making it and having it look pretty, but it covers activities you can do at home, from beginner stretches to Pilates, and from beginner to feisty fun cardio, all without any equipment. I also have weightlifting recommendations along with commentary creators to help you keep focused. All of the images link to resources I found helpful over the last 2 years, and I hope they'll be helpful for you too. And hey, while you're at it, if you want to take a look at my small handmade business, you can check it out by just clicking that logo at the top and check out some of our products. I've got a discount for you in the description too. Then, something I really want to emphasize, muscle is so underrated. Okay, maybe not for the men watching me because, to be honest, you guys are constantly being told you need to be crazy jacked. But for the women, it's almost always the complete opposite that is being sought after. I feel like I constantly hear, I just want to be skinny, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to look manly. And if you honestly feel like you relate to that sentiment, please just take a step back and think about how you respond to the following questions. If you want, or already have, children or grandchildren, do you want to be able to hold them and carry them with ease? Do you want to be able to walk up the stairs of your home without feeling like you're already breaking a sweat and already out of breath by the time you get to the top? Do you want to help reduce your chances of chronic disease in the future? And then, when you're at retirement age, do you want to be able to pick yourself up off the floor if you fall? You need muscle for all of those. Strength training and being strong is not an inherently manly thing, and people need to stop spewing that type of sentiment for the sake of women needing to appear a specific way based on unnecessary societal standards. Personally, I also realized once I got stronger, things just felt so much easier. And I know that might seem obvious, but even for something as simple as being in the kitchen felt so different. I remember my arms getting tired from cutting and stirring just so quickly, and my feet and legs would get tired from standing for like over an hour. Now, what would have felt almost dreadful to do is so much easier. And even just getting up to make a meal feels like so much less of a chore. On top of the physical benefits, you also get a lot of mental benefits from weightlifting and strength training. I find reaching new weights so fulfilling, and after a good workout, I feel so accomplished. If you also happen to be a very anxious person like myself, getting a good workout in can be one of the best ways to help reduce your anxiety and stress levels. You honestly might not be able to tell, but I'm a very reserved and introverted person, and even I ended up liking weightlifting so much, I have I've been teaching classes for it for the last 8 months. I honestly would have never thought I'd ever be able to say that. Some people out there might say I have too big of arms for a woman, and I say good thing it's on my body and not yours. If you don't like this much muscle, you don't have to get to that point. This didn't magically happen overnight or even over a few months. It took me almost 2 years to get here, and that's with me being pretty consistent and going to the gym on an average of like 3 times a week, with weightlifting as a pretty big portion of my workout. You'll always have time to adjust your activities towards your personal goals as you progress. That brings us to the next section, getting started on making realistic routines. Are you someone that states, I don't have enough time? I want you to ask yourself, do you honestly feel that's true? If so, check on how much time you spend on unnecessary apps through your phone. Better yet, mute the notifications so they don't pop up for social media or other annoying apps. How about things like watching TV? I mean, you're also taking time to watch this video right now. Maybe you could be multitasking while you listen. You could be doing some body weight work or even work on making your next meal. Or maybe you're the type of person that gets stuck in really long conversations with the people you care about. You could always ask them to just go on a walk and talk with you if that's possible. Do you have kids? These little energy goblins are perfect workout partners. And getting some of their energy out doing activities with you will be beneficial for the both of you. There are just so many small things you can modify in your life to get a bit more physical activity or just a little more time for your personal goals. I also really want to make it clear, you do not have to have any experience being physically active to start being active later in life. I have not been active for the majority of my life, and it really wasn't until the last 2 years that I had it as a high priority. So please recognize you can start now. If you're taking things seriously, it should be absolutely apparent that your health is a high priority. But also don't become problematically obsessive about it either. This can be especially relevant when it comes to food. I want you to take a second and really check in with yourself. Do you know what a serving of peanut butter looks like? How about potato chips? Maybe a serving of pasta? Now, how about how many calories are in each of those? If you can't come close to correctly answering these types of questions for foods you might be consuming, you likely want a calorie count for at least a couple days, if not a couple weeks, just to better understand how much is in what you're eating. I mean, seriously, how would you expect yourself to eat in moderation if you don't even know how much you're currently consuming? But when you do start seeing progress, make sure to compare yourself where you originally came from, not where you were a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Don't let a scale or measurement not going in the right direction make you completely fall out of your routine and into bad habits. When you are trying to make a change, you don't want to solely focus on where you need to be, but instead, let a lot of your efforts focus on how you're going to get there and how you can make a realistic routine to keep consistency, especially with how hectic life can get. You're not going to want to try to make all of the changes at once, but instead have them gradually introduced. Here's the method I use to add healthier routines into my life. And remember, this method can be applied to more than just your physical and mental health. If I'm either starting completely fresh or just getting back into things after a really rough patch, I'm gonna start on the easiest mode I can. And if I'm being honest, after the holidays, this is pretty much where I'm at right now. Easy mode for me often starts at the basics. I want to have one goal for consumption and one goal for physical activity. Now, this is where things might differ for you, but for me, I am absolutely horrendous at consuming liquids, so that's always my first consumption type goal, making sure I get enough water for the week. Then for my physical activity, I would likely set a goal of getting to the gym at least once a week and maybe toss in at least one walk for the week. To some people, this might sound insanely easy, and really that's the whole point. You want it to be realistically achievable without an insane amount of stress. And when we're getting back up on the horse, having the confidence boost of reaching your goal for the week is always a nice bit of momentum to keep the ball rolling. If you do succeed for the week, and it felt fairly easy, you add something new. Maybe add a goal for protein, veggie, or carb consumption. Or if you're trying to focus a bit more on the physical movement, maybe you add in a walk for the week or another weight training session. On the other hand, if it did seem really hard that week, or even if you did happen to just completely fail, we want to make sure you fail gracefully. And what I mean by that is do not add on more goals. You either stick with where you were at the previous week, or if it was that difficult or life is that difficult, you might roll back a couple of weeks to make things easier. And really, the biggest thing you need to remember in this case is that you are still staying focused on bettering yourself. Mistakes will happen, and make sure to be kind to yourself when they do. The great thing about this method is that you're focusing on the now, week to week, what you have to do this week, rather than this big momentous task that might be an end of year or even potentially end of years type of goal. When it's all done in these bite-sized pieces, it's much more attainable and will help you slowly build up to a routine that works for you in the long term. This is just a list of examples I threw together. You might have specific ones that work much better for you. You can have some really basic goals like consuming a certain amount of water per week. I'm really bad at this. Or a number of workouts per week. Maybe for you, it's actually easier to set up your goals from the opposite perspective. So maybe instead of having your goal be making X meals per week, it can be written in a different direction of allowing takeout X times per week. It really is just whatever resonates better with you mentally. Because in the end, this whole process we're setting up is just a way to slowly introduce different thinking patterns to reach our goals. And depending on where you're at, you might not even be taking one from each side. If you're overweight to the point of having bad joint issues, it would probably be better to start focusing more on diet until you're able to get some of that weight off. On the other hand, if you're struggling really bad with eating healthy, but physical activity sounds much more doable, start there, and a few weeks from now, you can start adding in some diet goals. It's all just a matter of reflecting on your own personal situation and thinking, what am I most likely going to have success with? As you move throughout the weeks, you won't always be adding new things, but instead you might be swapping or modifying based on your interests and goals. For example, maybe you start off with this massive cardio kick and you're doing really great with walking and maybe even going to some cardio classes, but you want just a little bit more strength-wise. So now maybe you swap one of your walks with a weightlifting session, or maybe you swap your cardio class with a lifting class. It isn't always going to be just adding more and more to each week or making it more complicated than the last week. It really is just tweaking your routine to something that'll keep you happy and get you where you want to be. On the other hand, if something big does happen and you get completely kicked out of your routine, it is always completely fine to start right back over from the beginning on easy mode. All of us experience so many different things throughout our life that makes it hard to keep focused on the things that we care about and keep us healthy. Remember to have a routine that allows for flexibility and to allow the curveballs of life happen. And even if you do fail, be kind to yourself and just try again. I'm honestly so glad I was able to take a look back on these last 2 years. It really helped me realize how I can allow myself to almost like controlled derail while also being able to get myself back on track when needed. Oh yeah, don't forget there's that useful link in the description if you want to check it out. And I hope you guys found something useful out of this information, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.